What's going on, social media? So, episode 72 of Disruptive Tech. And hey, we
Is
go
this
talk
the
about
real 72 or the updated one or the one that we bungled up?
yeah, we go talk about after death, Aldrich. Your favorite topic.
No, I don't like to talk about that.
So we're gonna have a little fun tonight. So we go talk about after death, and we go talk about, hey, when it comes to disruptive tech, I've been doing kind of my research, and there's big money in dying. So the big thing is we're all dying to get there, correct? So that's what we work hard for. We're dying. It's like a race, right? We work so hard, make money, and then the end. So that's what we could discuss today. It's not a popular topic on LinkedIn because I think everyone on LinkedIn wants to make money. Everyone wants on Facebook wants to highlight their highlight reel. Happy family, happy kids. Politics. And news. And then everyone on TikTok is dancing away. Because we're all comedians. And and then on Twitter, we're just sharing whatever our thoughts are, right? So today we go talk about a topic that no one talks about, but it's very relevant because we'll all reach that point. No vaccine, nothing can stop us from dying. No amount of money. So let's talk a little about this. There's this space where there are tech companies designing different technology for after we die to either dispose our body or ways to do funerals that are more safe in this day and age because of, we all know, right, the pandemic and future pandemics to come, right? So it's definitely when it comes to innovation, even Forbes magazine is highlighting this sector. They've been talking about it because one of the biggest challenges is there's more of us dying, but there's only so much earth. There's only so much land. So where is these bodies? And we're all getting bigger, right? The way we eat, we're all getting bigger. So there's more to dispose of, right? So
not just that, think about how much trash we already bury underground. So our trash is actually spreading out and taking up, the landfill is filling up the earth. And so there's no place to put us.
Yep.
And it's our fault.
The orientation of this episode is starting to scare me. It's like a little morbid, a little dark, and very bleak. But okay, I get that. I get it. Yeah.
So I like to hear your thoughts. I don't want to be the only one talking. So go ahead, Jen.
So if it's okay, I would like to start, but I wanted to raise my hand so I'm not interrupting somebody. So first of all, I just pretty much came on here to say hi to Jeremy and Aldrich because I haven't gotten to be on the show for a long time. So I miss you guys and miss our BUP tribe and audience as well. When I actually forgot about what the topic was, I actually misunderstood Kevin on what the topic was. So I was super excited about it tonight. And then he reminded me, and I definitely got creeped out. So this will be a really interesting show.
Thanks for coming on, Jen. Kevin, you're mute.
Yep.
During your research this week, what have you learned about disruptive technology within the death space?
It's Jen, right? Jen, go first.
Any of you.
What have I learned? I have learned from looking at it that, well, it is part of innovation. So innovation can cover every single area of life. And especially in the tech field, we're always innovating and making things better and better. And I had no idea how many options are out there to either bury your loved one or to dispose of them or to keep them near to your heart. And I mean literally very close to your heart, like in a necklace. It's just crazy, like all the different options. It's actually creepy. It's really creepy. Like you can literally preserve someone's body. Yeah, it's just, and I think for me, I know this is a little off topic, and but I was thinking about the whole organ donor thing because I'm getting ready to renew my driver's license here in the U.S. So you have the option to become an organ donor. If you suddenly pass, they can use your different body stuff to help save someone else's life. So that's interesting. Like when I've been reading articles, and it says even Forbes put out a magazine called The Future of Death Tech, because of, people feel that a lot of the ways that we have been doing things are actually bad for the environment. And so, I mean, this is definitely a reasonable thing to talk about, even though it's not a typical topic. It is very important, especially when it comes to, global climate change and all of that type of stuff. I know not everyone's a fan of global warming, but it's getting hot up here. Okay. I'm just saying it was 102 degrees yesterday. That typically doesn't happen where we're from. So be careful how you bury your loved ones, because it can affect the rest of us that are living. Go ahead.
Wow, that's two random dots that you just connected. Am I right?
Kind of.
Say what?
Those are two random dots that you just connected, right? Like, hey yo, you be careful. It might hit us.
Global warming.
Yeah, I get that. I get that.
I'm very random.
I think that the US and the Western world is a lot more okay. US. I think like, there's a lot more liberal thoughts in terms of life and life after. There's a lot of I see a lot of these things over and over in the course of my research, and sometimes I actually went back to look at some of the startup businesses that managed to get their way to Shark Tank. So there's one that caught my attention this week, but it was many seasons ago. I think the company is Eternova. So eternal. So basically, you can take a piece of your loved ones and make it as an ornament to stay with you. But it's not that creepy, okay? Not the way you mentioned, Jennifer. It's like it's a celebration of birth, life, and death. So imagine you just gave birth to a cute little one. You can take one strand of hair and then put it in a necklace that is custom made, and you can give it to your better half as an anniversary present. Okay, so things like that. I think they do things like that, and they do things like that that's related to death. I thought that was not so morbid. I thought that was a very good idea, right? You preserve a part of your kin or your loved ones with you as if they're around you. Well, their future of death tech, I think I read that article as well. I was pretty blown away. I'll be very honest with that. But I think regardless of how innovation goes and how technology is going to be, there are real problems that we need to solve for the living on planet Earth. It is. I'll leave the part on the cultural element to Jeremy, because I can see how this is going to play out in this part of the world. It's not going to be very well accepted and things like that. But I think when it comes to death and afterlife, we have to be respectful of how people think about things, and not to say, hey, everyone, funnel all of you into this, and that's how we're going to solve the problem. It's not going to solve any problem. That's how I think about it. At least as an opener. That's not how I think about it. Go ahead, Jeremy.
No lah. Why you throw the cultural aspect to me? not so
You
good at
like to
that.
talk about such things, right? I don't. I'm like, every year at this point in time, when there's a lunar 7th month that we do this topic, the kind of feedback that comes through, it does bother me a bit. I mean, like, we don't know how to live to our fullest potential as a living being, and we are already talking about that. I'm like, okay, but I respect that, so I'm listening. Go ahead, Jeremy. Go ahead.
I don't know where to start on this topic really. I think there are areas which there are areas, other than cultural, there could be other areas that we need to touch on beliefs, right? Religion is a huge part of death. So depending on religion, it also determines how one would want to manage their remains. But if we're talking strictly about technology of death, I actually don't agree that it's disruptive. Only because if something is disruptive, it's supposed to affect people's lives, but nobody's lives is being affected with this technology because you're already dead, right? So it's more of options, technology options that will help how we manage our remains, if we choose to have remains after we die. So if you look at options, then it really boils down to what we used to do in the past and what's new. So I feel that it's, just like for retail, right? It's moving from physical to more of digital options. And there are also other options that are like rather physical, like Kevin, the article you shared with the 3D modeling of the face of your loved ones who has passed on, just the head. That's creepy. That's really creepy. But it's an option. It's something disruptive that you probably never thought of. And even things like putting a presence online. Funny you mentioned about people trying to appear happy and everything on Facebook. I've made this joke before with my friends, right? As you age, right, Facebook becomes funeral book because people inform you who has passed away and where the funeral is held. So Facebook now has another purpose as you go later part of the years. But I think even before we determine what are the options we want to remain, I think there's also one part of the technology aspect which we have not addressed. The digital information that you have, once you die. I mean, just talk about Facebook, right? I do not know what will happen if somebody dies, and what do you do with the information on Facebook? Is the account closed forever or what? That I'm not sure.
So
just throwing it out there.
Facebook actually have a legacy account. If you go under your settings, so this is for digital marketing, right? So there's actually a legacy setting that you can pretty much, like, I can inherit my Facebook login and password. So as soon as I die, I'll go to Jen, for example, or my kids. Yep.
Oh.
There's actually a setting within Facebook called
right.
So
So 3 generations later, your grandchildren might potentially end up with 9 Facebook accounts to begin with.
Yes.
When they start Facebook, is that the way to think about it?
Yep, I think so.
Oh wow, no.
Wow.
Which a lot of people don't even know. That's
leave me real estate, okay? Yeah. Don't leave me this kind of thing. No.
Hey, but
Eldrick, I put your name as mine.
It's fine. It's fine. I don't need that, right?
No,
it's okay.
Kevin, that's actually very interesting because, sorry, Jen, you want to go ahead? Okay, I'll just say, I think that's very interesting because imagine like what Audrey mentioned, right? 3 generations down the road, whatever that is. It's interesting because you could actually build like what you call that, ancestral tree mapping thing through Facebook.
See,
right?
He will never be able to escape the cultural element. I'm telling you.
It's not a cultural element. No. I think it's interesting because people our age, I think sometimes even in US schools, right, you want to trace your ancestor, who they are and all that. Now you can do that with Facebook. And you can even have an intimate idea of how your ancestor is like because you have all this thing preserved digitally. I think that's pretty cool. I think that even that transcends time and space, and it gives you an idea how your ancestor is like. Assuming Facebook lives forever and everything's online, right? I think that's more interesting of a concept and idea than what to do with your remains, if you ask me, because that one, it's fine. It's done and dusted, yeah? And based on the article you share, right, Kevin, you can be a tree, have a plant absorb your body as nutrients and be a tree. But I think there are issues to that unless that still takes up space because it's the same as having a plot of land and putting a body there, right? So I don't think it's nice in theory, but we're going to run out of space eventually. And, so those are just some of the new technologies. But I think what you brought on Facebook is more interesting for me than, what to do with my body, how to deal with that after I die.
Yeah. So, no, this is good because when you talk about the cultural aspect, right? Too, I think the way the East looks at it and the way the West looks at it is also very different, right? So, I think regards to the West, they even have, comedy shows that makes jokes out of death and different things, right? And then in Asian culture, we think very differently, right? A lot of us are also superstitious, it's not a topic. I remember when I go through the cemetery as a kid, my parents spanked me if I step on one of the stones, like,
Correct.
It's just
Correct.
not a thing to do.
Not respectful.
And then you're in the US and you see kids hopping on it like they're just skipping stones, at the cemetery. It's just a little different, or, families are during Memorial Day, they're putting their picnic, chairs and tables and they're eating over their, where they're buried. You would never see that in Asia, because,
Correct.
And then, I remember I had to bow, a certain way every time I show up, which is just cultural differences, right? Even the way we respect our elderly, not even just the dead, right? It's very, in Asia, it's very set in you just don't say certain things to your parents' friends, for example, that you might see in the West, where it's like, hey, you just speak your mind, but in Asia, it's all about, hey, you respect your elders, you respect the dead, or, there's bad omen,
The superstitious side. Jen, you want to say something?
I find the numbers very interesting. So when you guys were saying, is this really episode 72? I was like, let's see. In Asia, there's like certain numbers that you just don't use. And so I was like, we should have done it on that number. See, episode 4. Episode 4, you talk about death. I know, like, you guys, there's certain house numbers that you won't buy that house if it has that house number. At least in Hong Kong, it's that way.
In Asia.
Yeah, in Asia, like, there's just certain numbers, like, I wouldn't want my business to be at that address, at that number.
You want all 3.
And so,
or 8.
And yes, and don't you guys have a 13th floor in some of your buildings?
Oh, it depends. I think the 13th floor is actually good in Cantonese.
See, in America, it's not that's a bad number. So even though we don't tend to have as many superstitions, we still have ours, and so some buildings do not have a 13th floor.
All buildings, Jen.
All buildings. Okay, all buildings. And this would be episode 66 for us. Or 666. Or 666, yeah. But 666 or that type of thing, or 13, those are not good numbers. 7 is a good 13, number.
13 is good in Cantonese because 3, correct me if I'm wrong, yeah, Kevin?
We should have invited Jacqueline the American.
Yeah, Jacqueline.
I know, she has something to say. Go ahead.
3 sounds the same as rise. So 1 sounds the same as easy. So if you put 13, it's really like easy to rise. So it's like, good for promotion and career and stuff like that. And I actually lived on the 13th floor when I was in Shanghai. So it's not too bad.
Did anything bad happen to you?
No, only at the end. only at the end. So,
Right.
but yeah, the 9 years was good. But we're going back to the cultural aspects of death, right? I think
Yes.
Kevin, you hit the spot about the East being very respectful. In fact, it's not just only the respect for your elders kind of aspect into death. There's also this element of filial piety as well, because don't forget, in China and most part of areas where there's this Chinese community, we have this special day called Qingming, or Tomb Sweeping Day in Chinese. In English, right? So it's a specific day where you make the journey to the tomb of your ancestors and you clear out the tomb, decorate it. You offer food, chopsticks, things like that, and then you pray and pay respects on that day once every year. And it's a very big day in China, because you can see, I believe it's a public holiday. I think it's a public holiday, Qingming, yeah. And so the whole families will really go to where the ancestrals are buried, the tombs, or even, plots of land, and pay the respects. And there always be like once in a year traffic jam leading up to these cemeteries, right? So it's very huge. And so if you take that into consideration, and if everything goes digital, then there is probably no longer a reason or chance, or it become more of a convenience factor. Oh, I can just pay my respects to my elderly by pay my respects to my ancestors by just logging online. That sounds weird, right?
That changes.
That changes everything, right?
No,
There's no physical place to go to. There's no tombstone. Nothing symbolic for you to
No, it's just the way you put it across. Like, you get into the internet and you pay respects to your ancestors.
But that's how it is. My point is, with these technologies, if they are more digital, then really I think you lose that aspect of the filial piety part, because you are supposed to suffer and make that 3-hour journey to the cemetery to show that you are paying respect, that you put your time aside to do that, right? To acknowledge that, remember your roots, remember your ancestors, that kind of thing, once a year. But once you take out that element, I think it's kind of defeats that purpose. I don't know. It's just a cultural thing, because yes, all this technology exists, but what is that? Is the implication? Is there an implication on how we would adopt it, or do we even want to adopt it? Because it's not right in certain cultures, like in Asia, right? So I think that's an area, since you want me to touch on culture, I think that's an area we need to really look at, because the technologies are disruptive and are only there for as good as people adopt them, right? Imagine nobody used the iPhone. We'll still be back with pages or whatever you want to call it, right? Dumb phones, right? Non-smartphones. So it's really about the adoption. And yes, we have a lot of options now on different ways we want to manage our remains after we die. But what's the adoption like? We need to factor in religion. We need to factor in culture, right? Because I think in your religion, you believe that you go to heaven, and what you do with your body doesn't matter anymore, right? So it's more for people who are left behind, how they want you to remember you by. Do they want to have a piece of you with them close to your heart, or remember you as a tree? Can you were buried underneath and this tree grew because you drew nutrients from your body, decomposition, or whatever you want to see it. So these are other areas that it's more dependent on your loved ones, how they want to use your remain to remember you by. Does it have to be a physical spot? Does it have to be a login online and they can see all your pictures or what you did on Facebook in the past? What is that, right?
I don't know, but I'm going to be on Oculus so that I can bother Kevin to death. Not to die,
virtual ghost.
But to death. I don't know quite how that works, but I want to bother him where every time he goes into the metaverse on Facebook, he will see me literally everywhere he goes. That way he can never forget me.
You haunt him digitally.
No, I'm just joking.
Well, let's talk about all the different ways, right? Now there's the green, go green, which is a huge industry, right? The reason it is a disruptive tech, right, is because there's so much tech companies going into it, because with global warming and all the environmental issues, there's a lot of, let's be honest, there's a lot of money to be made because they're looking at the stats, right? During my research, I noticed there's more people dying than ever, right? Especially with this pandemic, and then even because of the pandemic is causing different issues with other medical things too, because of the lack of just staff, in the hospitals, and so people are still dying. So there's tech companies coming up with ways to dispose our body better and just healthier for the environment. So now you have pods, right, where you can go into this pod. There's ways you can become a seed, and your family member can plant it. There's also you can turn into what do you call, Jen? Compost. So you can become compost, so that your family can utilize your dirt to plant their plants. So that's one way.
Please don't eat the veggies that came from my ashes. Please don't. That's just wrong.
I think if I left it to my family, if I left it to my family will choose the compost. Will choose the compost option because I'm full of shit, right?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
So that's one way. And then, like Eldrick said, there's companies now coming out with wearables, earrings. But what caught my attention the most was there's a company that's utilizing your remains to create diamonds.
What? Diamonds?
Yeah, so somehow they are utilizing diamond, right? It's for the wealthy, as a luxury item, right? Because those things aren't cheap. So I was looking at it and I was like, whoa, So they can take your remains and somehow mix it with precious diamonds, and you can be within the diamond somehow. I don't know. And,
like a fossil?
Yeah, your loved one can wear it, right?
Wow.
So
that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm gonna do to Kevin.
Yeah.
I want a big one sitting right here.
So that's another way.
I'm sorry.
And then now there's also what you call aquamation. So instead of cremation, you utilize water and the decomposition with chemicals and different things. And you go into these hydro tanks, right? Your body. And it makes you disappear, I guess. So that's another way. So those are more like the green type, right? But I want to go into the more interesting type, right? There's the flying them into space.
I love that one.
Yep.
It's the ashes, though. It's not like a full body floating up there. You cremate them first, and then you take the ashes and give them a space burial.
You missed our number talk. We're talking numbers earlier. So,
Jackie, this is episode 4. Jacqueline, what does that mean for you? We're talking about death, episode 4.
Anyway, and then there's another one which is very interesting to me, which is right now China, I believe, is leading the way. Is Cairo, where they freeze you, right? But technically, these people aren't even dead yet, right?
Dead yet.
They might have, let's say, cancer stage 4 or something that they're predestined to most likely die, and they're freezing themselves in hopes that 20 years from now there's some
the cure and the
technology that can heal you, take care of cancer, and they can defrost themselves and come back to life. So let's talk about this a little bit. So what are your thoughts on that?
Ridiculous.
I think the rocket one sending to space is interesting, but they strap your ashes in a mini rocket and they jet you out into outer space. Is that how it's done?
Yep.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So do they do like a mini launch thing, and then they have they do the countdown 10, 9, 8, and then they let your loved ones hit the button and send you out to space kind of thing?
I have no idea. So for me, I like the cheapest option because after I die, it really doesn't matter So it's like whatever's the cheapest, right? If you want to cremate me, it's the cheapest option, and you just do whatever you want with my ashes. That's great. You know,
I told you you're going to be a diamond. All women, all women love diamonds. Okay, and who doesn't want their husband like close to them? I mean, just in case.
But
hopefully, my sons
Just in
are gonna
case
be
you go
smarter,
first.
and they will not waste their money on making that into a diamond.
but what if that diamond, because of that additional contribution, reduces the 24 karat kind of rating? That's another headache, right? It's like, oh.
No,
Okay.
what if you buy a diamond without looking, into it and thinking very closely, and it's somebody else's, family member, and you didn't know? You just thought you're buying a diamond ring, and then one day you have it looked at.
That's a making of a Korean horror movie.
Yes, exactly.
I mean,
I think one that's really interesting is becoming a coral reef. So there's a company called Eternal Reef who places your ashes into a natural reef mold, and they deposit you into the sea. So it's kind of it's a wonderful spot for scuba diving for those who love to go scuba diving.
I don't want humans in the sea.
Can you imagine that you go get your diver's license because you're sick of the human world, where you go underneath, it's like, it's all the
but they all did. But they all did.
The afterlife is like, oh my gosh, what the hell is happening?
You're like, wait a minute, this is a grave site. That would be crazy. I mean, I don't know if you can tell or not, but they're not real coral reefs, but they kind of look like that, and they do attract the colorful sea life. But still, that would be really strange.
But are we gonna eat the colorful sea life?
No.
How do you know?
What one day you can't tell if something's real or not, or what they've been. Yeah, what you eat and what they ate, you don't even know anymore. Because they have there's another one that has speaking of, it's called exposure. It's a sky burial.
Ooh.
This mostly happens in Tibet.
Mm-hmm.
So the bodies of the deceased are released to the wild to allow wild animals and nature's elements to just dispose of it. So, I mean, that's a little
the ashes,
weird.
right?
So
that's the ashes, right?
Well, I don't know why they would eat ashes. Maybe they eat at the bones. I'm not sure. But anyway, that's a little.
It
has to be the ashes. You can't be like dumping a dead body out of the plane, right?
No, yeah. It says in Tibet the ground is not suitable to dig graves, and there's a lack of resources, which makes it difficult to burn them. So it mostly happens in Tibet. But just think about if you're living in Tibet, you go hunting, and you kill an animal who's been living off of, your neighbor's family member that just died. I mean, that would be really hard for me.
What kind of hunting are you talking about? That sounds like a domesticated animal to me.
No, these are wild. These are wild. You're going to kill wild animals and eat them, who have been eating on human flesh in order to survive.
I'm not surprised.
And that is Korean horror movie number 2. Let's move on.
No, but it's kind
so
of funny in a way, right? We're talking about, what happens when we're done, right? When it's the end. So let's go back to, because we are on social media, we are digital marketing, innovation, all this stuff. So let's go back to what Jeremy said earlier about he found it interesting regards to Facebook and the legacy accounts. So let's go there for a little bit. What do you think, do you feel social media is valuable to pass on to the future generation? Because if you think
Very
about
good
it,
question.
yep, today, right? You have archaeologists, they dig up, remember the caveman, the drawings and different
The
things.
murals on the wall, yeah.
So let's say hundreds years from now, what are they going to find the people today, right? It's going to be these digital marketing assets, right? NFTs, so, social accounts. I mean, we don't draw on walls anymore. So let's think about this for a little bit. Let's talk about it.
I think you have a grave misunderstanding about what archaeologists do. They are not really interested in humans.
Well, I understand that.
They are not interested in Homo sapiens. Okay, they are interested in the species before that, and then the dinosaurs, and the valuable stuff. They're not interested in
The relics,
who they are, and it's probably like the next evolved species, or the next ones. What's after Homo sapiens, and God knows. So they'll be very surprised at the amount of junk that we create, and I'm not just talking about rubbish and trash and things like that. Someone was telling me, I was having this conversation, they were saying that the internet is the biggest rubbish dump in the world. I was thinking about it. I was like, yeah, that's true. It's like there's so much trash going on at infinite cycle and loop. It's like you just scroll, and then everyone is creating content, everyone is creating information, and everyone is scolding everyone else and things like that. And now we are trying to add value to the junk that we create and make them NFTs so that we can mint it and make some money for ourselves. I was like, we have got to this point, people. Life has gotten so interesting.
Hey, Aldrich, I want to interrupt you just for a second, and I know that we need to come back to this topic, but I saw Jackie and Jacqueline and Darlene commenting, and I wanted to give Darlene just a couple more really cool ideas so they can actually take. Yeah, I mean, no, not to be weird, but we've been talking about some really creepy type stuff, but these are really actually cool ideas of taking someone's ashes and making portraits. You can literally make paintings out of your ashes. And these are paintings that also could be passed down through families. Also, and I'm talking about beautiful pieces of art, not just weird stuff.
I will not be in that room with that artwork. By myself at night. I will not work in that office.
Jennifer, imagine that the elders from your family says, "This is your family heirloom," and you're gonna hold it like that, like.
It's your great grandpa.
I would probably sell it and make money. But see, if it's somebody that, like, for example, my husband died, or just a child that you want to forever remember. For a mother, that might be really special. Now, after that, it may not mean anything to anyone else. And when you sell the painting, absolutely do not tell them that it's part of someone's ashes. But I'm just saying, but it's just. And then the other really cool thing is you can actually get turned into a firework, which explodes into the air in beautiful colors and spreads your ashes everywhere.
See, that's cool. Firework.
I think that's really cool.
Wait, hang on. So you blast the ashes via fireworks and you cover the entire city with it?
Talk about respecting the dead.
Like,
I'm not sure. I'm not sure how it. Aldrich, I'm not sure how much ashes they put, and I'm not sure how high up it goes, and I'm not sure like how it falls. But yes, that's what they're saying.
Yeah, but think about it this way: all the people in the neighborhood would have had a piece of your loved one breathed inside their lungs or something like that.
Hey, I want to be that person in everybody's lungs. Okay.
Yikes! Yikes!
Oh my God!
No, thank you.
What do you?
No, thank you.
Air pollution 3.0.
Yes, but I always said I wanted to I'm not one of those that think about leaving a legacy. I don't even know how to say it. I want to make an impact on the world where when I leave, it's not easy to forget me. So if that's you breathe in a piece in your lungs, fine. I want to make an impact somehow in this world.
Just become an NFT.
To your way of thinking, right? Because most people who have that thinking, they work really hard to contribute to mankind, and not the way you just described, like, oh, if I go away, I'll make sure all of you remember me.
I will make sure all of you remember
I
me.
think it works that way.
Yes. I want
the opposite
everybody
of
to
leaving a
remember
legacy.
me. I want everybody to remember me in a good way, though. In a good way, but
Wow.
in a way that made a difference, whatever that was for you.
Altruism
Yeah.
2.0. I learned something new again.
I already know already. I told Kevin what I want on my tombstone.
I don't.
Very
remember,
simple.
So you never remind me.
What is it?
She loved. Period.
Nice.
That's it. That's what I want to be known for.
Make it into an NFT, non-fungible tombstone, and there you have it. You live on forever.
That way it continues to make money. I like that. I like that. That's how Eldrick will leave.
Yeah,
Did you
but
say
I
Did you
That's
say
what
hedge
he's
fund?
working on. Is all his writings gonna continue making money.
Yeah.
but I doubt the earning prowess from the resale commission of that NFT. Like, oh, that's the NFT of the
So and
neighbor
so.
that just passed away. I'm like,
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
it's kind of interesting. I mean, like we make a mockery of this, but it's like that's where we are going now. And
Wait, we come back to Kevin's
Facebook.
question. Is living a
legacy
right? Yeah, right. I mean that's what I'm trying to do with this live chat, isn't it? Leave a piece of me, my thinking, my thoughts behind on some server. My kids, my whoever, can later check it out 100 years later, assuming we still have the servers are still intact, internet is still intact, and we're not all blown away by some nuclear or whatever apocalyptic scenario, some meteoroid come in and hits Earth or whatever. So meteor. So yeah.
And then everybody would have a space burial because you just go whoosh.
Boom.
Well, because
that's not funny, is it?
When we talk about legacy, I think it's kind of neat too. If you think about it, pictures from back in the days turn yellow, right? And there are pictures that I value a lot when I was a kid or with my parents. That no matter what you do, right? I know there's treatments now that can preserve it, but it's kind of expensive, and sometimes you just don't. It's not a priority at the moment. So then those pictures just gets old, right? And there's even journaling, as you get older, you're moving from one home to another. Life happens, right? You start losing different things, right? And the pages start falling apart. But if you think about it, your digital assets, your social media, it's there. Like I can always go back to even my MySpace account. I can still log in and still see pictures from that time, even though MySpace isn't really popular. And actually, I could export some of it and moved it to Facebook, during my earlier years, right? Yeah. So if you think about, these are your journals. These are your, if you're honest with yourself and you're truly authentic, okay? If you want to remember as the a-hole that just sells people stuff, then keep doing what you're doing. That's fine. That's what you'll leave behind for your children in the future. Oh, that's my dad. He just bombarded people with bots and sales messages.
Trolls other people.
That's his whole career, his whole life. Good for you. That's what you want to be remembered as. But I think it's neat because even let's talk about the living. You can learn a lot from following someone's content, who they are, and what they really value. If you give it enough time, you start paying attention, you'll start seeing the heart of the man or the heart of the woman, through social media. Because at the end of the day, people can hide so much, right? But there's so many accounts nowadays, right? You can see, oh, why is this person like this on Facebook, but they're like this on LinkedIn, and then on TikTok they're like this, and then you can kind of sum them up a little bit, right? So I think it's neat because when we talk about 100 years from now, right? If someone finds one of our social media accounts or whatever, they can almost trace back, see the growth. I mean, I've seen people where I followed them throughout their social media journey from when they were younger till they got older. And you can see their tone change, the way their perspective changed, the way they start seeing things, right? So I think it's kind of interesting. So it's really something you could leave behind, for your children, and for them to go, that's what mom was doing at that time. And the neat thing is, it's all filtered by date and time. So there's timelines, right? It's a software solution. So
there'll be more. There's more information to go through than, say, if we were to look into looking for our ancestors' information. You really can't find that. It is more told through stories, and stories being stories, will depend on people's memory, and that usually fails. So the longer the time goes by, you have lesser detail. So having a Facebook kind of a legacy thing, I think it's good, but you have more details to go on, but it might not necessarily be complete in terms of the different facets of the person, because ultimately we still want to look good on social media.
Yep.
Right? We still want to present the nicer parts. So yes, you can see some growth, but it's usually presented in a nicer manner. Doesn't give a complete picture 100% of how this person is, but that's still better than not having anything.
So Kevin, I know Kevin personally, and me sometimes, but more him. He uses it kind of as a photo album, and you can also control who sees it. Like it could be, you can put only me, check only me, and only you see all of your pictures. But what happens is every year they come back up, and then you're like, oh my gosh, I forgot that happened. Like exactly a year ago, we were the same place on the same day. So that's actually how I think Facebook was originally supposed to be. Yes, we have done that before, by the way. And it was totally accidental. But I think that's what Facebook was originally supposed to kind of be about, was making connections, but also sharing your journey or journaling your journey, however you want to use it. And then it does playbacks so that you can go back and see all of that stuff, or you can remember things that you had forgotten, moments in time. Oh, my kids were so small, I've forgotten that. And I think, it's all in how you want to use it. But I think that was originally what it was there for, is relationships and life, journaling your life as much as you want to.
Which brings us to the question, right? If this part of the journaling part of the person, when a person is still alive, is more important to us, then all this disruptive technology about how to handle the body when they die, it kind of becomes secondary, because it's just a, physical symbol for you to pay your respects to, or to show that you are, display of filial piety. You go and sweep the tomb, pray, bow, show your respect. That kind of becomes secondary, because that is like a dead thing there, just as a symbol. But what's more interesting will really be the digital aspects, when you can see, feel, and read the person, or understand the person better through what he or she shares online. So I feel these two aspects are, in a way, quite different. Which, true, there's a lot of money to be made on how we dispose the body. But we always say, right, at funerals, we are celebrating life of the person. So really, the tombstone is just something to symbolize that the person is dead. You're not actually celebrating the life of the person, but the person lives on the internet. So to me, that's more interesting. That's how I feel.
No, I 100% agree. celebrating life, the moments that we share together and, the living, right? And technology has come such a long ways. And I think it's becoming every aspect of our life from, birth to living to death, is consumed, all of us, right? So I think when it
Wait,
comes,
hold on.
yep.
I sense that Audrey has something to say. He looks like he's gonna burst.
He does. I'm like,
Go ahead. Waiting for you to drop something on
I'm
us.
just I'm just I was just thinking about the prospect of, if an elder leave me his social media accounts as legacy.
What would I want to do?
And
No, I don't want.
no, not that. And if one elder left me like 5 different social media platforms as legacy, I'm like, and if I actually go in to look at all sorts of content, the kind of thoughts that's going to come into my mind is going to be mind blowing. Like, no wonder he doesn't achieve anything in life. He's busy doing stupid things online, and he's pumping content every day. And I'm like, oh,
Judging, huh?
yeah. And it's like, my respect for that guy might might just be shaped by a lot. I'm
That's an
supposed to
interesting
respect
view.
my elders, but geez, I probably just don't leave me these kind of things, okay? I like to have very good impressions of all of you in a very nuanced way, even though I know that you're not that kind of person.
So Audrey, what you're trying to tell us is don't do silly things on social media if you're gonna hand it down to your descendants,
Nobody's
yeah?
meant to do silly things with. Come on, let's put it that way, right? But
Fair enough.
if it's your account, you do what you want. But it's a very different thing if someone else inherits it, right? Like, it's like, oh my god, no wonder my dad is never promoted for 10 years. He's been doing all these stupid things on 5 or 6 different platforms every single
dancing
day
on
just to get
TikTok.
people to say this. And it's like, oh, maybe that's a good thing for the next generation. Huh? It's like, oh, yeah, let's not do this ever again. It's so stupid. Let's focus on
What not to do.
self-actualization.
this is what didn't work. Like, this didn't work out for my dad, so I'm not going to do that in my life.
That's the reason. That's the reason. His only legacy is to leave me 5 different social media platforms, and he didn't leave me a single dollar.
With 10
like,
followers.
oh my god.
With 10 followers.
With 10 followers.
Can you imagine next time our grandchildren, one of the activities will be, let's compare our grandpa's social media account and see who has more followers.
You know what though? It is I'll bring the sadness back into this conversation. It is kind of sad though that, like, I've been seeing a lot of news, and I think I've mentioned this one time before, where a lot of the, like, almost every month in the news, there's at least 1 or 2 like TikTok stars or, just some type of influencer that they're just dead. And they don't always tell you why, but you kind of have an idea. And then all of a sudden their families have to come on there and confirm, I'm sorry, so-and-so is gone and they passed away. And they could have millions of followers, but all of a sudden it's completely obsolete. It's just gone. That person is gone. So their account becomes, old news. And that's so sad, but it's just the reality of what happens. So, anyway.
Everything is transient.
Yep. So there's always a finite. So when we're talking about life in general, right, to bring it all back before we end the night, right? Your social media accounts live forever, guys. So really think about, hey, you're gonna not live forever, but your social media account, the data lives forever. So think about what you're leaving behind. Okay, that's more important than thinking about how you go decompose, like how are you going to decompose after you die. But think about, hey, while you're living, are you putting good stuff out there? What are you leaving behind for other people to find in the future, right? So stop putting junk out there. That's the whole point of this episode. You know, write good content. Pay Eldrick for some coaching so he can help you.
That's right.
So that
right.
he can help you. He can help you put out good content, and when you hand over your account to your descendants, you will look fantastic
Yes.
to your descendants.
So we're at the bottoms up perspective. We're starting a new service.
It's called
How to
End of Life.
the best time capsule, right?
For your descendants 100 years later.
Legacy in the future, right? Through video, through content, through website, and you can pay us. No, just joking.
But if you want the honest truth, this is the group. This is the group to really help, especially Aldrich.
So instead of leaving the diamond ring, you can have a perfectly packaged, like, hey, this is Grandpa. Grandpa, amazing, right?
He spends all his time on LinkedIn.
Writing
let's connect posts and growing 100 followers a day.
You don't want to look weak. You want your, grandchildren to go, look, Grandpa has 40,000 followers.
And your grandchildren will say, oh no, that's 2D stuff. I'm getting on my Oculus in the metaverse. I'm not gonna look at that anymore. It doesn't work with the it doesn't even work with the program.
And then there's gonna be like pre-programmed programs in the metaverse that you have to access before you actually do something else. And that will be your grandfather module, grandmother module, father module, mother module, and all of that. And you'll be like, oh, I didn't come to the metaverse for this, okay?
On that note, hey, thank you for joining us tonight. We had a lot of fun. And this is one of those topics, there's no right or wrong. And feel free, research. I mean,
there's a little bit of wrong.
All that stuff is out there, But at the same time, let's celebrate the living, and let's stay alive for a little longer, right? And we're gonna get off here, and make sure you join us next week because we could talk about relevant topics. So we could get out of this disruptive technology and go into more relevant topics in the news in the world today. And I think we could talk a little about gender in the next episode. So, all right.
Are you ready, Jeremy?
Morning. Good night.
No.
Later.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.